Hi, and welcome to Books in Action. This is Larry Petraccaro with my co-host, Dustin Dumas. And we have with us today Andre Davis. Andre is an artist, actor, singer, playwright, creator. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about the creativity, the aspects of that in the work you do, and also about a film. I think it's Attack from All Angles.
Yes.
And about a play that you'll be producing shortly. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that and find out a little bit about the creative process. So one way to start, Andre, is just tell us a little about yourself.
So, I'm an actor, a singer, a writer, a director, and a producer. So, wear a lot of hats, but I'm having fun with all of them right now.
Okay. Well, having fun is got its benefits.
Yeah.
What got you started in this approach to life, if you will, this aspect of creativity that you're trying to take to other people?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the acting and the singing go, that was something I was doing as a young kid. And then, of course, you get into college. I was dating a girl who was auditioning for a play. She said they need a guy that could sing. I went down, auditioned, and I got the part. And from there, I was cast in several other plays, and I just got the bug from there. Winded up landing an indie deal, so I had a record deal, which went relatively good for indie. And then after that folded, there was a lot of rejection going on auditions that I had never experienced before. And honestly, it was a combination of that rejection and just not being able to audition for the roles that I really wanted to do, the stories that I really wanted to be a part of, which pushed me into writing my own.
When you say you went to college, did you start off by studying theater, or where did you wind up studying?
So to be very honest, I went to college, and in my freshman year, I was a communications major. And once I landed the role in the play, I knew that I just wanted to leave. I really did not. There was no need for me to go through the 3 more years of college. I wanted to leave and pursue acting and singing. But since I had started already, I'm like, well, let me just finish and at least have the degree. So I went through, finished, got my BA in communications, but I knew I was never going to use it.
And have you used it?
No.
No?
Well, it's interesting because I would think that the things you're talking about, wouldn't you, Dustin? That the writing, the producing, the singing is communication.
Exactly.
Somewhat, yeah, absolutely. Somewhat. When I was there, my focus was more almost like a radio personality. So that's what I was looking at, radio or TV personality. As far as, being the interviewer. So Larry, I will have your job. But yeah, I knew after my first play, I was like, yeah, I want to be on
And how did you prepare then? Because you didn't go to school for acting and for singing and things like that. So how did you prepare? Honestly,
this is where I give all glory to God, because this was it's a gift. I work on it to get better at it, but there was literally nothing that I did to train myself to do these type of things. Yeah, even with the writing, after doing so many plays and really studying how they work, how the opening scenes go, how the rise in action to the climax to the fall in action, you just start to kind of understand the concept behind it all. And so when I started to write, not even knowing that that's what I was doing, I was writing a story in the way that they would teach you to write a story or a script.
You raise a kind of an interesting point about the writing and I guess some of these other aspects of it. I think too many of us who aren't as familiar with it and haven't gotten into it kind of assume it's easy. And I'm guessing it's not. The way you described how you came to writing sounded like a tremendous amount of discipline and hard work.
Yeah. It was a lot of on-the-job training. A lot of, as an actor, a lot of times when we get roles, sometimes we'll sit in the back until it's our time to go on stage, do our part, and then we go back into the dressing room. That was never really my thing. I would always like to sit in the wings. I would watch the other actors. I would listen to the audience and see what they reacted to. And so when it was time for me to write my own, I had all of this stuff in mind because this was like a free on-the-job training with all of the plays that I've been in previously to write my own. Yeah.
And how many plays have you written?
Plays, 4. I've written 4 plays. I've mounted, 5. 5. I've mounted 3 of them so far. So, and then I have another 2 that are coming after.
What does mounted mean?
Yeah. I was going to ask that same question. Thank you, Dustin.
So, mounted just means that it's been shown to the public.
Oh, okay, okay. And you have 2 in the wings.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about the plays that have been mounted.
So, my first play, it's called Man of the House. We started in 2014. We've actually been able to run continuously until COVID. So I was proud of that. It's a drama comedy. The focus is domestic abuse, but the man is the victim as opposed to being the abuser. So it tells the story from a different lens. It's been extremely well received, so I was very happy about that coming out as my first one. The next 2 are 2 one-act plays, more educational. One is called The Breakdown, and it talks about how the breakdown in the home between parents and children is one of the causes that allow these children to become susceptible to things like bullying and gang violence and things of that nature. And then my other one-act stage play, which is going up February the 19th at the Bergdorf in Maplewood, is called Is This What We Paid For? And so it asks the question, if civil rights activists who perished during the struggle were able to come back present day and they were able to look at us as African Americans and see how we currently live, would they feel like their sacrifice was worth it, or was it all in vain?
Wow.
And do you leave that as a question, or do you draw a conclusion?
So we do draw a conclusion, but it is an open-ended question, and what I guess I'm most proud about that piece is the reaction in the beginning when the audience hears the question to where we go at the end of the production.
And is this just for one night?
Yeah, just one night. We're doing 2 shows, a 3 p.m. and a 7 p.m.
Okay.
But one night.
Okay.
And then will it go elsewhere?
So that's the plan.
Okay. It should be. Well, you said the first show has been almost continuously up until, I guess, 2019 was. So are these like local theater groups, or have they gotten like widespread nationwide? Or?
So the first play, 2018, we did our first tour. It was a 5-city tour. So we did Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Maryland. And that show has actually been used by different colleges and universities as well as domestic abuse education. Because it's different. It's a different way to discuss it. And then we, normally we'll do a Q&A afterwards. And some of the dialogue and the questions from the students that have come about because of that, just honestly, it has blown not just me, but the cast as well. When we hear some of the dialogue that's coming out from the play, it's like, this is when you know it's above you. You know what I mean? Right. Like, it's above you. The whole purpose of this was beyond me. Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, obviously you're very proud of that, but like you weren't expecting that from the way you just described it. So how?
I think for me it was just another, I don't want to say example, but for lack of a better word, another example of how I am literally walking in my purpose. Wow. And for me, there's no better feeling than to know that the reason I was put on this earth, I'm actually able to live that out, because a lot of people aren't. A lot of people leave this earth before they are able to fulfill whatever their true purpose was. And so for me, that just, in addition to the fact that they're actually learning something, right? It's just an amazing feeling.
That's very powerful, because I mean, I don't know how many people actually feel that way, like when they're doing whatever they do, that they actually feel like I was put on the earth to do this. Yeah. Which brings me to my next question. So when you're writing, so I'm particularly interested in the one that's going to be premiering at the Bergdorf. What was the impetus to even write that? Yeah,
so to be very honest, I had a young lady reach out to me to see if we had a Black History show within my company. And I said, I don't, but I can write one. And so I would just sit down, like normally whenever something like that happens, I'll sit down and this is going to be a lot of God. but it's like, God, what should I write? And like once the idea comes, then I can just, it flows.
Really?
Yeah, it flows.
So how long are we talking about, like 6 months to write a play? Why do I have a feeling like you're going to say like a weekend or something?
Yeah, so
How long?
my first one, Man of the House, that was a full. The majority of the story, maybe 4 hours. Like literally, I sat down at the computer and it just would not stop. Like the characters are jumping out and I hear all of the dialogue, so I'm just going. Is this what we pay for the breakdown? Probably a week.
Wow.
Probably a week, yeah.
You must be able to compartmentalize everything. Like you have to do like the actors, like think of who you want, think of the dialogue. I mean, I know you said that you've been, when you were actually acting, you were not just going and resting, but you were in the wings, like sort of looking at everything. And you said that helped you. Was there anything else? Like, did you do anything in addition to that to help you write in such a way?
No, and honestly, when I think about it, to hear you even say that, I feel a little mad scientist. Because again, this is how I know it's a gift. Like just to be able to hear all of these characters in my head, and you know, I consider myself to be a pretty sane person. So but no, nothing. No.
Wow,
No.
that's so impressive.
Yeah.
That is so impressive.
Was there anything that surprised you about writing once you got into it?
Anything that surprised me about writing? That's a good question. I can't really say. No, not yet.
Yeah, I'm just
Not
curious whether or not the you had a sort of, like I was saying before, you would have had a preconception that writing would be easy, that acting would be easy, and the way you described it, it was disciplined. It was disciplined effort to hone that craft.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if it was like, you thought writing would be simple and it turned out not to be, or you found dialogue different. I don't know.
I would probably say the opposite. So when I first sat down to write the first play, I thought it was going to be a lot harder than what it was.
Okay.
And that's a blessing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But I did. I thought I was going to give myself a couple of months to really put this thing together, and they just haven't been taking that long. So I'm happy about that.
You mentioned the one show was kind of a drama comedy. I think that was the first one or the second one. I forget which.
First one.
I've often wondered if it's really hard to write comedy, or was it just as easy for you to? Because comedy always seems different to me.
So no, I won't. The challenge in that piece was because we were talking about domestic abuse, was to never allow the comedy to overshadow what the message in the play was, right? And so even when we brought it to life on stage, that was one of the things that I was very strict with the comedians about, is that domestic abuse is not funny. So there should never be a joke about that. So I had to find different jokes around the story, but never to take away from what we were talking about.
Okay. Well, just like your play and your stories come to an end, I think we've come to the end of this. So if you'll stay with us, we'll be back with Books in Action in about a minute.
It's an onion.
Hi, and welcome back to Books in Action. This is Larry Petraccaro with Dustin Dumas, my co-host, and with Andre Davis. We've been talking to Andre about some of the plays that he has produced, written, finding out that he writes a lot easier than Dustin and I do, nonetheless. But so, Dustin, you had a question.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit, because not only do you write plays, but you also produce and direct and films.
Yeah.
So I wanted to find out about like what what types of films, like documentaries versus feature films? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, so, I'm very new to film.
Okay.
I always knew that I was going to transition some of my plays into film. But COVID helped push me a little faster because the theater was closed. So it was, as a creative, I don't want to be down. Well, first of all, no one knew we would be here 2 years later.
Right.
But so it pushed me into film. So I'm very new to film. I'm sorry, what was the second half of the question?
Oh, just in general, like, do you do documentaries versus features, or
Gotcha,
a little
yeah.
bit of both?
I haven't done any documentaries yet. So the first one was a short film.
Okay.
And then the second was a feature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about both of those?
Absolutely. So
And the length too, because I think some people don't know what a short film is versus a feature.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha. Okay, so the first that I wrote is the short film. It's called Attacked from All Angles. Runs about 38 minutes, which is a little long for a short film. A lot of short films are actually 10, 20 minutes. And so that film, I was inspired to write it when everything with George Floyd happened.
Okay.
And to see the protests that were happening throughout not just the country but worldwide, I thought it was inspiring. But coming from someone who was born and raised in Newark until I moved to South Orange, there's an issue in the inner cities as well, right? But it doesn't get that same energy. And so I wrote the film to address that, where I do feel that the protests were absolutely necessary around George Floyd, that same energy, we need that to kind of clean up what's going on in the inner cities as well. So that's where Attack from All Angles came from. I just started to submit it into film festivals. I'm glad to say we won Best Short Film in the Kwanzaa Film Festival, so I was happy about that.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
Wow.
Very happy about that. And then my feature film, it's A Diamond Holiday. And it's a day in the life of this family, the Thomas family. They get together on Thanksgiving, and the tradition is to celebrate Christmas the next day because that's when they're all together. But of course, with every family, there's some drama, some secrets, and so that's another drama comedy. That was extremely fun but challenging. That was the first time, like the days were like 14, 16-hour days, and I had no idea because I'm not a film guy. I'm theater.
Right.
So we're in there a couple of hours, not that long. And we did that 4 days continuous. So that was a very humbling learning lesson for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you did both of these during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So okay, so you just pushed on through
Yeah.
it. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And how long is the feature film?
90 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
90.
And did the writing for the films, did that come very easy to you as well, just like the writing for the plays?
I want to say the plays probably were a little easier. The films, it's a lot more technical that I had to kind of think about as the director of the film as well. So that made it a little more challenging, but nothing too crazy.
Okay. Okay. That's I just can't believe you when you started talking about it, I'm like, wait a second, he produced 2 films during COVID.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And you directed them both?
Yeah.
And did you edit them both?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about editing. I mean, and the direct. How did you try to direct so you didn't have
Seemed
to edit, or
traumatized.
do you try to direct and then? Well, I missed that.
I said he seems traumatized. Editing a full length or even a
Okay.
short.
Oh, that's right. Dustin is our editor. So yes.
Oh, editing is a monster.
Really? Okay.
I had no idea. So, being an indie creative, the budget is always something that, I have to be concerned with. And so for the short film, I said, well, let me just try and play around with it so at least I know somewhat what to say when I do approach someone, for the next film.
Right.
It was challenging. It was extremely challenging. But when we got to the feature film, that almost took me out. It was that I have so much respect for editors and what they do, and they are worth every dime they charge.
Well, when you started the editing, Andre, did you say this isn't what I really meant? Or, I mean, did you come across situations like that when you were watching the film? You're right, traumatized.
That was the perfect word. I can't even put into words. So the one thing that I do enjoy about editing, right, is that as the director and the writer of it, I'm able to pull out the scenes that I really think, or the takes, I should say, that really portray to the audience what I was trying to portray as the writer, right? So that part I wouldn't give up for the world. It's the defining tuning, the little nuances that make a movie a movie. The sound, audio is its own monster. And yeah, again, I have so much respect for editors after doing these projects. The first project spoiled me a little because it wasn't as challenging. I learned a lot, but when the feature came and it was time to edit, I'm thinking I'm going to be faster this time, and no.
Wow.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What about the when you're shooting the films? How did you pick the locations or that kind of stuff? Because you mentioned at one point you mentioned that there were more technical aspects to filming,
Yeah, absolutely,
than to playwriting. So how did you handle that?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be completely transparent. When it was time to pick locations, I went for locations that were free, or that were either free or a very minimal cost. So with Attack from All Angles, it only takes place, and that's another thing. As I'm thinking about the budget, is limiting the amount of locations because it becomes costly every time you have to stop and pick up and go. So Attack from All Angles took place 2 scenes. There was a church scene and a house scene. So the house scene was one of the guys who's actually part of my company. We used his apartment. And the church scene, my father's a pastor.
Oh,
so I was able to use the church, both free of charge.
Very nice.
Same thing, holiday film. I thought about it again because this was a full. So the movie takes place in 2 locations, in a house and in the club. So I went to my cousin's house. We put them out for about 4 days. They were great. And then for the club, the Sweet Spot actually in South Orange. I'm familiar with the owner, so we used that place for the second location.
Okay.
So it really came down to budget. To
budgets.
Yeah.
But as you continue with this, I suppose it's going to get you're going to need more locations at some point in time.
You have to have scouts.
Yeah.
Because you're basically the scout at this point, right?
Yeah. So over the holiday, after I almost burnt myself out, that was the realization that it was time for Superman to take off the cape and to get some more people. And so now I have a team, which I should have done this sooner. It's all a part of the process.
Well, the way you described editing, it almost sounds as if the editing were more important than the directing. Do you think it is?
That's an excellent question. In a way, yes, because in editing, you can make magic happen. So some of those scenes, they did not. I remember when we were recording, thinking to myself, when it's time to edit this, I have no idea what I'm going to do to pull this together. And then once you get into the editing process and you can start to pick and choose and cut, and I'll be honest, with the holiday film, when I was transferring the footage from the card to my computer, 60 takes were corrupted. So I lost 60 takes, right?
Man, that must have been devastating.
So I don't know what to do because
Wow.
I don't know how am I going to pull this together. It was a lot of the beat footage. This is the magic of editing. I was able to take a lot of reaction shots and still make it work to where no one knew that's what happened. Only after I said, like I told the cast, and they were like, "Oh, okay," but there's magic, and a good editor can create magic.
Did you
Yeah.
know? Did you know how to edit before you started this process?
YouTube University.
You just did everything.
YouTube University.
Wow. Okay.
I had no idea.
Well, what's the ratio of actual shooting time to film time?
Boy. Well,
Roughly, I mean.
you figure, like I said, with the holiday film, well, with the short film, we did 2 days. They were about 8-9 hour days, and that was a 38-minute film. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like
17
It's like a
hours
lot
for
to
38
watch.
minutes.
38 minutes. 38 minutes.
excuse me. What's the the title, Attacked from All Angles? I mean, was that kind of something that you've automatically thought about? Does it have a significance, a meaning? How did it come about that?
To be honest, I don't remember how I came up with the title now.
Well, that's pretty honest.
I really don't. So in the movie, we talk about a lot of the socioeconomic barriers that the African American community faces. And that was what I meant by the angles. So we talk about police brutality, we talk about gang violence, we talk about the lack of access to money, the lack of access to some of the better paying jobs. And so when you think about all of those angles, and it's almost like an attack. So that's, yeah, I guess that's how I came up with it.
Well,
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Do you have a title for the feature film?
So the holiday film is A Diamond Holiday. So
you did say that.
Yeah,
I'm
A
sorry, I
Diamond
missed it.
Entertainment is my company, and so
Oh, okay.
yeah, for my first film, I just thought it would be nice.
So we know that you have the play coming up at the Bergdorf on the 19th.
Mhm.
What about the two films? Where can people find those?
So the holiday film won't be out until the fall of
Okay.
this year. The Attack from All Angles, because it's now going through the film festival circuit, it was going to be on my YouTube channel, but it's now, I am going to show it at the end of the month. The 27th will be at the Village at Sopak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for 2 shows
Okay.
on the 27th.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
So, and all that information is on my website, adiamondent.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, we've got a little less than a minute left, so.
This was fast.
Well, it goes that way. Yeah. If you can answer fairly quickly.
Okay.
Well, you talked before about audio, how important that was. What about the music? How important is the music that you choose to use, or do you choose to use music in your films?
I do, especially, being a singer, absolutely. It does. The music can intensify a scene. It kind of sets the mood for what the audience is either about to see or they're actually watching, so extremely important for me.
And do you pick the music, or?
I do. So I normally work with someone who does the score, but I'll kind of tell them what I'm looking for in the scene, what type of mood I'm looking for, and then I'll let them create.
And they create the mood after
Yeah.
that? Okay. Okay, I guess we're going to have to create a different mood. So I think we're finished for the evening. Thank you guys for joining us on Books in Action.